Hey, good evening, everybody. My name is Dr. Nathan Thompson with Exemplify Health Center, your Wellness Way affiliate in Yorkville, Illinois. Hope you guys enjoyed your Monday. It's been a long day for me, over 12 hours. Mondays are long days. Hope you guys had a great weekend. If you are joining on this live broadcast, please say hello. And instead of letting me know where you are watching from, let's do something a little bit different. What I want you to do is if you are a current patient of Exemplify Health Center, a Wellness Way affiliate, I want you to go ahead and put a red heart. Go ahead and comment with a red heart. If you are a current Wellness Way patient with all of our clinics across the United States and also in Europe, go ahead and put a green heart. And if you are currently not a patient of either, go ahead and put a black heart, I guess. Put a black heart. And let me know which of you are wonderful patients and which of you are patients of the Wellness Way, and also those who have yet to be a patient but hopefully are patients very soon. So guys, I always appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate your shares. I appreciate all that you guys do in order to help me continue to make these live Facebook broadcasts, guys. So let's get into it. I know yesterday I posted, hey, here's what we're going to be talking about. Today we're going to be talking about monkeypox. Is it really a national emergency? It's interesting. You could go a lot of different directions with this. You could go, I know a lot of people commented that it is political, which I actually do agree. But let's talk about the straight health facts. Let's separate fact from fiction, actually using the CDC and what they say about monkeypox. I'm going to give you my opinion at the end, just as a preview. Do you need to be worried about monkeypox? No, you don't. Let's just separate science and facts from propaganda and from fear tactics. I'm going to explain to you why as we go through this. So guys, if you know anybody right now that has a concern with monkeypox, please share this video. The reason why I'm going to talk about this right now versus waiting a little bit longer really has to do with what we've been through over the last 2.5 years. Our messaging has not changed. We have been 100% right with everything that we have said regarding a virus, regarding exposure, regarding masking, regarding social distancing, regarding the vaccine, regarding all of that stuff. We have been correct. We have been right 100% of the time. And the reason why is because we know physiology. Wellness Way doctors know physiology more than any healthcare practitioner. I will put them out there with anyone. And that's the reason why we have been right, is because we understand physiology, and we're going to talk about physiology as well. In fact, this is going to be a two-part series, because I'm going to talk to you about the immune response and who is really affected with any virus, including monkeypox, smallpox, all of these other things. So let's separate fact from fiction. And the reason why I'm going to talk about this is because what's so interesting, guys, is they started to bring this up, back in May, and it kind of fizzled, and they're bringing it back again. And this time you're going to see that there's a lot more news articles that are taking place. And you almost see when there's some kind of agenda taking place, how they're going to ramp it up in the reporting of a virus that you should have no concerns about whatsoever. The reason why I say this is because just yesterday, I was like, you know what, I think I want to talk about this. And literally on the homepage of MSN was article after article after article about monkeypox, how it is spreading, about the vaccine. That's the only hope that you have. And guys, pretty much we've gotten to the point, whatever the public health officials are recommending, do the opposite, okay? Because it's not based in facts and it's not based on science. It is based on fear. I'm going to prove it to you in just a second. So when I was perusing all of these different articles, I just put up just two of them. But here's one: Seattle's first monkeypox vaccine pop-up clinic runs out of shots. Okay, I want you to think about it. Whenever there is scarcity, it actually will create fear and will create urgency. Remember, scarcity creates urgency. And so why are they creating this level of scarcity? Because they want everyone, whether they need it or not, to run out and actually get the vaccine. So they're saying, oh my gosh, We have a national emergency right now. In fact, there are states that have declared a state health emergency, and they're going to say we are running out of shots, we are running out, in order to create this false sense of urgency that people are going to go out and think that the only thing that they have is to get some kind of shot. How about this? This actually comes from the New York Times. I pulled it up yesterday. Why monkeypox vaccine shortage may threaten the immunocompromised. Okay? Well, who are the immunocompromised? The only way to know is to actually be testing your immune responses, in which there are no doctors who are actually properly testing immune responses. We do it all the time in our office, but they say people with HIV and other immune system problems may need the full 2-dose regimen, researchers say, but the shots, particularly second doses, are hard to come by. Okay? Now, who are the immunocompromised people? Well, HIV, obviously, but there's other people who are immunocompromised, and the people who are immunocompromised, the only way to tell for sure is to do a CBC with a differential, and then doing what's known as an expanded lymphocyte enumeration, CD8, CD4, CD19, CD56, also known as natural killer cells, B lymphocytes, killer T cells, and helper T cells. But the other people who are immunocompromised are actually the ones who are really medically induced being immunocompromised. These are people who have had chemotherapy, kills off the immune system, kills off the stem cells within the bone marrow. Other people are going to be on long-term a type of autoimmunity type drugs in which they are trying to knock down an immune system response. Long-time corticosteroid use, and then some of these other autoimmune immune modulating medications that they have actually come out with too, also known as biologics. The immunocompromised are also going to be people with blood sugar issues. High blood sugar, it actually destroys neutrophils, one of your first line of defense against tissue damage, and also with bacterial infections, which is why a lot of people get secondary infections when they have a primary viral infection. So you can see that when they look at this, they're already creating this false sense of urgency. And guys, I'm going to remind you again, please share this video, because even the people that responded to this responded with fear, and they also responded with, this is what the quote-unquote experts say, so it must be true. In fact, one person that commented actually quoted the CDC on why they should be afraid, and I actually had said, because some people just jump on and comment without knowing the contents of this page, and I say you literally quoted the CDC as fact. Okay, the CDC has been wrong time and time again about the last quote-unquote pandemic, and yet we still go back to them as the experts, and it's almost as if so many people have what is known as Stockholm syndrome, in which you fall in love with your captors. Okay, the same people who locked you down, the same people who said you can't go to church, the same people who said close down your business, the same people who started arresting people for opening their gyms, the same people who arrested people for taking a walk outside at the beach, are the same people who are going to tell you to do the same things over and over again, and yet you gladly still listen to them. Guys, that is the perfect definition of what is known as Stockholm syndrome. Guys, start thinking on your own, and just remember, an expert is often wrong. And if the experts were wrong before, stop listening to them now. What makes you think that they're going to be right on this? So they have a long history of being wrong on so many things. One would wonder if they're actually purposely wrong, or if they're just that stupid. Okay, they're either one or the other, and both are bad situations. So you can see they're creating this false sense of urgency that is getting out of hand, and we're actually going to be running out of vaccines. And in fact, I went to the CDC on monkeypox, and you can see the number of confirmed cases in the United States comes out to 7,500. I pointed out Illinois because that's the state that I currently live in and practice in. The number of cases is 602. Just so you know, 602 out of a population of 11,500,000, that's actually has gone way down because we live in Illinois over the last 10 to 15 years, comes out to I think it's approximately, it affects 1 in 19,000 people, okay? Yet, for some reason, Illinois has declared this a public health emergency out of one in about 19,000. Makes you wonder, because actually the death rate from monkeypox is the survival rate or the recovery rate is 99.9x. The reason why I put that X in there is because the people who are going to get hurt by any virus are the ones who have poor immune system functions, who don't have sufficiency of the immune system. And so literally, if you have sufficiency of the immune system, there's literally nothing that you need to worry about. It's literally like the chicken pox, okay? So I went to the CDC website and said, let's see what they have to say in regards to monkeypox. This was updated July 22nd, 2022. Coming from the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, and here is what comes from the horse's mouth, quote unquote, the experts. Monkeypox symptoms are similar to smallpox symptoms, but milder, and monkeypox is rarely fatal, okay? They just said it right there. It is rarely fatal. Who has a problem with any virus? The people who are immunocompromised. How do you know if you're immunocompromised? Well, look at the medications that you're taking, and also make sure that you have done a CBC with differential and an expanded lymphocyte numeration, okay? Now, here's what they say regarding signs and symptoms. People with monkeypox get a rash that may be located on or near the genitals, okay? Now, they go and actually spell that out. Well, we know what the genitals are, and also the anus, and they actually called it something else. And it also could be on other areas like the hands, the feet, the chest, the face, or the mouth, which means this. Anytime that there has been close, prolonged, skin-on-skin contact or close contact with some of the actual rash or the pox, that the virus has sloughed off onto clothes, onto bedding, and things like that. But basically, when you look at this, the people who are getting this is probably going to get me banned because it's not politically correct, and we're not talking about this, is those who are having a lot of sex, okay? Who have already been infected, okay? Now, the rash will go through several stages, including scabs before healing. The rash can initially look like pimples or blisters and may be painful or itchy. I can already see it now that someone gets a pimple on their gluteus maximus, or someone gets a pimple in their groin, or someone gets a pimple on their chest, or someone gets an ingrown hair, and immediately, because they've scared you into it, people thinking, in fact, that it actually is monkeypox, okay? I can also see this is that the number of people who are immunocompromised, who actually get shingles, will probably run out and think that they have monkeypox as well. And I can just see it, that they're going to have some kind of PCR testing that's going to falsely claim that it is, in fact, monkeypox when it was shingles, probably caused by a quote-unquote injection or caused by a failing immune system, because the doctors have led them down a bad path as far as what it takes in order to create a healthy immune system response. So number one, it's identified by actually having the rash, but secondarily, other symptoms of monkeypox can include, I want you to listen to this, fever, chills, swollen lymph nodes, exhaustion, muscle aches and backache, headaches, respiratory symptoms like sore throat, nasal congestion, or cough, okay? Now, wow, is that a monkeypox symptom? No, it's not. That is an inflammatory symptoms. That is your body trying to heal from any kind of infection that you get, whether that is a sore throat, whether that is the common coronavirus or cold virus, whether that is a flu virus. Guys, this was so crazy, is that, you know, like people would get diagnosed with COVID and they would say, oh my gosh, man, I had a fever, I had chills, oh, and my body was in pain, I was so fatigued. And it was like, that's not, just isolated to COVID. That's your body having an inflammatory response. And in fact, guys, I have said this time and time again, you can go back and watch our videos that we have done, is that when you have things like exhaustion, joint pain, even headaches, things like that, guys, that's a sign that your body is inflamed. and it doesn't necessarily have to be due to a viral infection or a bacterial infection. That can be due to general inflammatory response that's taking place in through the body. But I can just see people having a fever and a chills and freaking out, thinking that they had monkeypox and not even understanding the method of transmission, and thinking that they're going to absolutely get freaked out and think that they need to have some kind of vaccine. Now, how long does the illness last for? Well, basically, with any kind of viral infection, about 2 to 4 weeks. Guys, that's how long it takes that if you do have a viral infection for it to clear out. That actually means, guys, that you can have a fever for 2 weeks. But so many times that the cure for the virus is actually things like fever and chills and having congestion. We think that's the sickness, that's the body's cure for it, which goes beyond me. Why we would try to suppress a fever, why we try to suppress a cold, try to dry up the mucus that's produced that has all kinds of secretory IgA in order to inactivate a virus. We do things so opposite here in the United States. We try to suppress acute inflammation, which is good, and then what we do with chronic inflammation is we do nothing for it, which it actually should be the opposite. So, moving on, how does it spread? So how does monkeypox spread? From the CDC. Direct contact with monkeypox rash, scabs, or body fluids from a person with monkeypox. Okay? So you need direct contact with it. Number 2, touching objects, fabrics, clothing, bedding, or towels and surfaces that have been used by someone with monkeypox. So you have to have someone who has an active rash. Literally, the virus, they probably have scabs, they probably have pus, and it needs to actually slough off and then go onto the fabric. And it can't be, because remember, a virus needs a host. It's not going to live there for a long time. And so, which means you literally have to go and jump into the same bed as someone who was in bed with monkeypox within minutes, okay? Within minutes. Prolong contact with respiratory secretions, which means specifically things like coughing in your face and you would happen to breathe it in, or kissing and swapping saliva for that matter. This direct contact can happen during intimate contact, okay? So they're talking about intercourse, as well. Interesting that they're talking about this is the primary method of transmission. Hugging, massage, and kissing, prolonged face-to-face contact, touching fabrics and objects during sex that was used by a person with monkeypox that have not been disinfected, such as bedding, towels, and some of the other stuff. You can look this up. I don't even want to say it. We'll try to keep it PG-13. Okay? Now, a person with monkeypox can spread it to others from the time symptoms start. Remember, they say this, symptoms start. You have to be symptomatic. So what if they say, what about asymptomatic spread, which they said with COVID, which was absolutely asinine, and quite honestly, it was dumb because we knew there was not asymptomatic spread. And please don't comment. Well, the PCR testing said it could happen because that was a bunch of baloney as well. So until the symptoms start, until the rash is fully healed and a fresh layer of skin has formed, this typically lasts again 2 to 4 weeks. Okay, scientists now are still researching. We still don't know a lot about this, but I'm going to show you they sure knew enough to develop a vaccine for it about 4 years ago. So if the virus can be spread when someone has no symptoms, how often monkeypox is spread through respiratory secretions, or when a person with monkeypox symptoms might be more likely to spread the virus through respiratory secretions. So they're leaving that open. And the reason I think why they left that open and they say, well, we just don't know. Remember, guys, they approved, I'm going to show you in a second, they approved a vaccine 4 years ago. And if you can make a vaccine for monkeypox, you sure as heck should know exactly how it should be transmitted. But they're leaving this open for the possibility of at some point down the road, within possibly a few weeks to maybe, 1 or 2 months, of saying, you know what, everyone needs to mask. And hopefully we have enough people who realize that when you look at a mask and you look at the fabric and you look at the size of a viral particle, how the virus easily goes through, which is no different than somehow trying to keep mosquitoes out of your yard and installing a chain link fence. Let me say that again. Wearing a mask is no different than saying that's going to help prevent viral infection, no different than you installing a chain link fence and somehow thinking that's going to have keep mosquitoes out from your yard. So they're saying we're keeping that open because you know where this could be heading is it could be heading to let's try to mask up, and I know that you know better than to do that. There are some people, maybe 10% of people, where it doesn't matter how much you try to reason with them. They just are probably too far gone, or they're too far down the rabbit hole that their ego does not permit them to start to think clearly and start to actually say, you know what, I was actually wrong, okay? I will tell you something. If I am wrong about something, you'll be the first one to know. But you can ask my wife. I'm not wrong on a lot of things. She would probably beg to differ. So how to protect yourself. This is what's interesting with monkeypox. Because you know, coming from the CDC, they haven't been right on how to protect yourself, especially when it comes to COVID. What makes you think that they're going to be right about this? Here is what they say how to protect yourself. Avoid close skin-to-skin contact with people who have a rash that looks like monkeypox, okay? Now, I'm going to hedge my bets to say people are going to start freaking out if they have any kind of rash. You look at the number of people who have eczema, you look at the number of people who have things like IgE food allergies, you look at the people who might get poison ivy or poison oak or poison sumac, you look at the people who break out in shingles, and you're going to have this monkeypox scare. Now, it's always that you probably shouldn't. If someone has a rash, I would not want to rub my hands in my face and lick those certain areas. Maybe this just comes down to common sense. Avoid contact with objects and materials that a person with monkeypox has used. Don't share your eating utensils or cups, and do not handle or touch the bedding, towels, or clothing of a person with monkeypox. Guys, this is revolutionary. What they're saying is don't rub your face and hands around a rash, and on top of that, just make sure you're not sharing your utensils. Don't share your towels. Don't share your bedding, and don't share your clothes. Which actually, guys, just comes down to basic hygiene. Yes, I am a fan of basic hygiene. That should just be actual common sense. Wash your hands often with soap and water, especially before eating or touching your face or after you use the bathroom. Again, this is just pure common sense. You can imagine we are going to protect ourselves from the next pandemic by just doing basic hygiene and basic common sense. Now, of course, they're going to say, do that, and by the way, make sure you also get your vaccine. So the next thing that the CDC talks about is that they say that the CDC recommends vaccination for people who have been exposed to monkeypox and people who may be more likely to get monkeypox. So who are the people most likely to get monkeypox? Those who practice that type of behavior to get monkeypox, number one, and number two, the immunocompromised. Here's where this does not make any sense whatsoever. And we actually have said this when it came to the COV, et cetera, immunotherapies. I don't say vaccine, it's an immunotherapy. They actually changed the definition of a vaccine because a vaccine was supposed to actually prevent it. Now they realize, oh my gosh, it's not preventing literally anything. Well, maybe it's actually preventing severity, which that's not doing either. But I said, well, those people who actually have the most danger to getting exposed to that virus are also the people who are actually going to respond the least to any kind of gene therapeutic. So even when they talk about the people who are much more likely in order to get it or who are immunocompromised, remember, any time that you bypass your barriers, inject it through the barriers, and then into the actual internal environment of the body, they're trying to stimulate an antibody response from the B lymphocytes. And if you don't have many B lymphocytes, you're not going to stimulate antibody production, guys. They actually, when they have a vaccine, you still need a B lymphocyte response in order to produce antibodies. Guys, you cannot produce something from nothing. This is why there was so much of a failure with this vaccine, the gene therapeutic that they were using, because they realized the immunocompromised, the people with a low immune system response, literally, we could not stimulate anything. And I say, no duh. Did you actually measure their immune responses, specifically their CD19 cells, to actually see if they could even make any kind of antibodies whatsoever? So vaccine protection, the preferred vaccine to protect against monkeypox is called Jynneos, which is a 2-dose vaccine. It takes 14 days after getting the second dose of Jynneos for its immune protection to reach its maximum. I disagree. When they say immune protection, what they are saying is that it stimulates an antibody response. Antibodies do not confer immunity. Let me say that again. Antibody response do not confer immunity. I'll give you a perfect example. For those of you who may have had COVID 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I actually had it 2.5 years ago. I never got tested. In fact, the only time I've ever got tested in which I needed to get back into the United States, and they stuck that stupid thing so far up my nose that I still feel like they touched part of my brainstem. That was the only time, but I've never tested. I did test my antibody response, and I had antibodies, but a very low amount. Here's what happens, guys. When you get a natural infection, after the infection, you are going to see antibodies go up. They're going to stay high for a period of time. But just like if you haven't had consistent exposure, the antibody levels are going to start to go down. And in fact, it's going to get to the point where they're going to be basically undetectable. But here's the difference between a vaccine and natural immunity, is that with natural immunity, you're actually going to have memory T cells that are going to sit next to the area of infection that are actually highly trained, highly specific, highly skilled, in order to prevent that from happening again, that actually doesn't show up as an antibody response. How they measure effectiveness of a vaccine has nothing to do with if they're measuring an antibody titer. They're not measuring a killer T cell or a memory T cell type response is not happening, because remember, where are you getting the infection? You are getting it injected, and it's not bypassing the barriers, which is what you need if it's the skin, the lungs, the genitourinary system, or in the gastrointestinal system. That's where those memory T cells are actually sitting, because we're supposed to have infections at the level of the barrier. That's where most of the immune system is actually sitting. So if you look at this, how are they saying that you're protected? By an antibody response. And again, if you can't produce antibodies, then how on earth do you know that you're even protected at all? Here's what's interesting about this vaccine, guys. Don't forget to share this video, please. This actually comes from the FDA, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Here's what is interesting, is that September, okay, we're actually coming up on 3 years, but September 24th, 2019, and it actually said this: please refer to your biologics license application submitted October 25th, 2018, and received October 25th, 2018, of blah, 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 the section for smallpox and monkeypox vaccine, a live vaccine, not an attenuated one, non-replicating, okay? Under this license, you are authorized to manufacture the liquid frozen suspension of smallpox and monkeypox vaccine, live, non-replicating, which is indicated for the prevention of smallpox and monkeypox disease in adults 18 years of age and older determined to be at high risk for smallpox and monkeypox infection. Just remember that, 18 years and over. So meanwhile, my question is how on earth, I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud, how on earth did they know that there was going to be an increase in monkeypox 3 to 4 years ago? I don't know. It's just absolutely, it's fascinating, isn't it? I'll leave up to you to form your own opinion, okay? Now let's talk about the CDC, what they go back to when it comes to treatment. They say this: there are no treatments specifically for monkeypox virus infections. Do you know why? because they have no cure for any kind of virus. They have to rely on the body. Have you ever noticed that if a child goes and they have some kind of illness, and if it is a virus, the doctor said, go home, there's nothing that we can do. But all of a sudden, if it's a bacteria, they say, oh my gosh, here you go, here's a bunch of antibiotics. In fact, sometimes, if it's even a viral infection, they'll give an antibiotic just in order to make the parent happy that they came in and they're leaving with something. What's so interesting is you got the same immune system that can designed to handle a virus and a bacteria. So that they say there's no treatments. However, monkeypox, smallpox viruses are genetically similar, which means that antiviral drugs and vaccines developed against smallpox may be used to prevent and treat monkeypox and viral infections. Antivirals such as tecovirimat may be recommended for people who are more likely to get severely ill, like patients with weakened immune system. So now they're talking about antivirals, and I can't wait until Pfizer comes out with some kind of monkeypox antiviral medication, like the one that they developed for COVID-19, the kind that the government actually bought millions and millions of dollars worth, probably billions of dollars worth, and we actually know, boy, this really doesn't work either. We know that because look at the people who are taking it that have actually tested positive after taking it for 7 days straight, still with the virus. So guys, if you actually need things like antiviral things, there are wonderful herbs that actually work as antivirals, and I've talked about this in the past. One of them is actually licorice, how it actually prevents replication of the virus within the cell, while those T cells help to destroy those cells in order to help the body start to catch up. So when it comes to a virus, one of the things that you can do is there's natural antivirals that will slow down the replication of it, and then also stimulating a T cell response to be able to kill those virally infected cells. Now, does everybody need it? No. If you test these things properly, you say, hey, you know what? You're going to be fine. You may go through a period of uncomfortability. It's the body healing itself, but just be patient. You're going to get better. At some point, we actually forgot the fact that we are supposed to get sick. We're supposed to have a normal immune response to these things, because what these things are doing is they're helping to flex our immune system muscles. And the more that you can be exposed to these things, the more your immune system will be strong and robust to be able to handle viruses. If you are someone who tries to mask, make sure that your kids never comes into contact with any kind of virus. Make sure that you are slathering hand sanitizing lotion over them all the time, that you are literally wiping down the countertops with the most harsh, abrasive antibacterial and antiviral chemicals. Well, then go send your kid to daycare, go send him to school, because I guarantee you is that they're all going to get massive amounts of sickness. You're going to think something's wrong, and it's like, nope, they're just getting exposed to other people's microbiome, other people's viruses, and they're having an immune response to it. That's why they should be exposed as much as possible, and we have to stop being these clean freaks all the time, thinking that viruses make us sick. No, viruses don't make you sick. You're sick and you catch a virus. You're sick first. It's the inside of the body. It's the soil. It's never the seed. Let me say that again. It's the soil. It's never the seed. Okay? So let's talk about what the World Health Organization actually said, because the president, the leader, whatever you want to call it, the big guy in charge when it comes to the World Health Organization, they met and they say, okay, well, what are we going to say officially when it comes to monkeypox? This was the 27th of July, 2022, and here's what they said, their official statement and their remarks. They said this: more than 18,000 cases of monkeypox have now been reported to the World Health Organization from 78 countries, more than 70% of cases reporting from the European region, and 25% from the region of the Americas. So far, I want you to look at this, so far, 5 deaths have been reported. 5 deaths have actually been reported, okay? 5 deaths out of 18,000 cases. 5 deaths out of 18,000 cases. So when you look at this, okay, this is all things equal. let's say that all of you had an equal immune system response, and it still comes out to a survivability of 99.9x%. Let me say that again. 99.9x% is your survivability. If you have a normal functioning immune system, 0. If you are immunocompromised, then yes, that will be much higher. But it's no different than if it's monkeypox, COVID, flu, cold, whatever. Any virus has potential to kill you because you cannot respond to any kind of foreign invader. That includes a virus, that includes a bacteria as well. 99.9x%. And here's what is so incredible, is that people love to be in fear of something that has a less than 1 in 1,000 chance of getting to you. But the reality is here in the United States, you could tell people literally that you are going to die of either cancer or heart disease or from medical error, and that's about 80% of the general population is going to die from cancer, heart disease, or medical error, and they continue. They continue to eat their fast food. They continue to not exercise. They continue to not get adjusted. They continue to destroy their bodies and somehow think it's not going to happen to them. Or really what they think is I'm going to wait for the miracle cure that's going to save me so that I don't have to take any responsibility for my health, for my kids' health, for my future. They're just going to take care of it for me. And we live in a country, actually it's the human condition. The human condition is let someone else take care of it. I'll deal with it when it's on my doorstep. But we know by the time that you're diagnosed with diabetes, heart disease, and cancer, you've been sick. You've been sick for a long period of time. And it's much harder to try to reverse those things than it is to never get it in the first place. So guys, do you have to be worried about it? Let's talk about some takeaways, okay? So here's the takeaways through everything that I said in so many words. Number 1, monkeypox is not fatal. Who is it fatal for? Those who are immunocompromised. Who are the people who are immunocompromised? These are the people that it's medically induced, chemotherapy. This is also HIV. And how do you know if you're immunocompromised? You can actually get a CD8, CD4, CD19, CD56. CBC with differential expanded lymphocyte enumeration is actually what it's called. Number 2, when it comes to the symptoms, other than the rash, the inflammatory response is like all other infections, including the flu, including the cold, and including COVID. Number 3, wash your hands and clothes and avoid prolonged intimate contact, okay? That is just common sense. Just practice some basic hygiene. And then the vaccine was approved long before the quote-unquote outbreak. Just so you know that, it was approved. It was submitted almost 4 years and approved 3 years, which is like, it's amazing that the CDC always gets it wrong, yet somehow they tend to be amazing weathermen as far as what is coming down the pike. And then the last one is, if anybody tries this on you, you do not have to wear a mask. You do not have to wear a mask. So Illinois, California, New York in particular, if they come up in a week or two and they're saying it's time to mask up again because of monkeypox, please refer to this video and please don't fall for it again. Or if they say that they're going to bring it back in September, the only way that all of these shenanigans end is when people like you stand up and say it has to end. Guys, we have stood up from the very, very beginning, and a lot of times with a lot of criticism, a lot of heat, a lot of hate mail, a lot of negative reviews, but I don't care what the outcome is. What's going to happen is that at the end of the day, when I put my head down on the pillow, I do the pillow test and I sleep very well at night knowing that I'm always going to do the right thing, not worried about being canceled, not worried about a public backlash, not worried about all of that. And in fact, for a lot of you, you were worried about that, which is why you listened, but you didn't stand up. And so what happens when more people stand up, the timid become strong. The weak start to become stronger. The weak start to speak up. And it's time that we start going from timid and we start speaking up and we say, we're not going to take it anymore. We're not going to buy into this whole narrative. It's time to start getting healthy from the inside out and quit relying on all the outside in kind of things. And if we start doing this, that's how you change healthcare. This is how these things stop. It's how they never start. But the only reason why they start and why they continue is because we buy into a lie and we choose fear over faith. So now that you know that, then it's time for you to stand up and start speaking truth with boldness. So who really should be concerned? Guys, the immunocompromised. Who should be concerned? The immunocompromised. But watch, just like every viral infection, the immunocompromised should be concerned. And so if you have that, figure out why you are. Figure out why you're immunocompromised and start the process of start restoring and start rebuilding. Guys, stop manipulating your health and start restoring it and start building it back up. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it is difficult, but all pursuits that are worthwhile are always difficult. We tend to give up if we don't get our way after a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But there are things that I have constantly been improving on for years and for decades, because I realize that at the end of the day, it's about the long game, and it's the pursuit of excellence, and that can take years in order to develop. And the same thing goes when it comes to your health. So who should be concerned? It's the immunocompromised, but you also should be concerned with every other viral infection. Let me ask you guys a question. What has your doctor been recommending to test and strengthen your immune response? What's your doctor been recommending to, number one, test your immune response and to also strengthen your immune response? And I'm going to tell you, they haven't recommended anything because they haven't tested it correctly. They haven't. Many times we have been led down a very bad path, and that we're left thinking that I put my faith and I put my trust in you, but you've led me down a bad path, like we see every person who comes in. When they say, I've been on thyroid medication for 25 years, I'm sick, I'm tired, I'm miserable, I can't sleep, I have no energy. What's their solution? It's more drugs. What's their solution? It's antidepressants. What's their solution? It's all in your head. What is the solution? It's to tell me that I'm fine. And in fact, I had a woman who came in today who's actually a little bit younger than me. She says, I don't have any energy. How long this has been going on for? Since I'm about 9 years of age. Well, what have they recommended? Nothing. They recommended an antidepressant for me, because if they can't figure it out, you must be all in your head and you just must be crazy. So let's just help you feel good about you being sick. Guys, we need to start doing better. We need to start learning. We can't just sit in our ivory towers thinking we all have it figured out. We should be doctors who are dedicated to being the best for our patients, even if it doesn't fall in with your degree. We have to start just testing based on truth and not just saying, I have to follow these protocols. We need to be, as doctors, stop being intellectually lazy. The learning happens not when we graduate. We jump through hoops to get through school. The learning should happen when you graduate, and it should be constant and never-ending improvement, which is what I am committed to you guys to being, is constant and never-ending improvement. And I hope you find a doctor who is the same exact way. So guys, part 1. Part 2 is going to be next week. Guys, and I forgot to mention, for those of you who said, hey, I want to work with you in person, please go to the top of the page, get registered for our next inflammation event. That's going to be coming up, I believe, August 23rd. Get registered for it. You can click that Eventbrite link and get registered. That will be August 23rd, Tuesday, 6:15 p.m. That's an in-person event with me. A lot of people have asked, I want a remote option as well. We are considering it. We are working on it so you guys can actually watch it and understand our perspective when it comes to inflammation. Part 2, which will be next Monday, I'm going to talk about monkeypox and your immune system, and I'm also going to be talking about testing, how this test right here is someone who would actually be very susceptible to any kind of virus, and the reason why, all of the immune cells are actually low, and I'll tell you actually why that is. So guys, I hope you guys be well. I hope you are blessed. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Please again share this video. Please leave a comment below. And again, if you are still watching this, thank you. Make sure that you leave a red heart if you're an Exemplify Health Center patient, a green heart if you're a patient of the Wellness Way across the United States and in Europe, and a black heart if you are not a current patient of the Wellness Way of our office, so that we can help direct you to where you need to go. Guys, I hope you have a great night. Be blessed, be well, and remember, health comes from the inside out, not from the outside in. Be well.